All right, so welcome to today's tutorial. Today is about transcribing and also scripting. Now I'm going to go through transcribing through Adobe Premiere and how to script and how to put together an actual piece. Right. So the first things we're going to do, usually in what most cases, what most reporters and what most producers do, is that they'll scrub through the entire footage and they'll look for the sound bites that they need in order to place them onto the timeline in order to create a story. Now we select some of the best from the interviews that we conduct, and then we place them on the timeline. And the way we go about doing that is we usually used to do it by hand, used to transcribe everything on paper and then arrange them in such a way that that it looks good. And we put the time codes exactly where the time code is, how many minutes and seconds, and where on that tape or where on that clip where we need to get that sound bite from. So the first order of business and the best way to kind of streamline this process for you is to get a roundabout figure of where some of our best sound bites are and how do we do that in a more efficient manner. So Adobe Premiere is really great with having to collate all of that information so that we don't have to spend a whole lot of time working on, the specific the specific interviews that we're trying to look at. So right here in my project panel, as you can see over here, I have B-roll and interviews, and this will be for an item A story. So this interview, I already have transcribed because I've worked on this already, right? So I've already transcribed this entire thing, but I want to walk you through exactly on how to do that, which is really simple and easy. So there's an interview that I have right here of a student, and I'm going to show you how to get this interview transcribed. Okay. All right, so can't really hear anything here, so let's just go in and make sure that we can hear it. All right, and we want to turn this off so we can hear it. Okay, that's good for me. Okay, so there's a lot to scrub through here. It's about 12 minutes of interviewing here and a lot of stopping and starting here. So what I want to do, if you don't have this highlighted, if you don't have this in your source panel over here at the top, you don't have text here, just go over to window, click on text, and it should appear right here. Now you're going to see something that says transcribe source. Now what we want to do is to transcribe the source of this clip here over here in our project panel that's highlighted. So what we'll do, we'll hit transcribe, we'll do English, and I want to separate the speakers so I know who's talking, and when I play it back, we can tell who's talking so that even though we don't get a lot of the questions that are being asked jumbled in with the responses. I'm going to go ahead and hit transcribe. All right, great. So now that all of the audio was rendered, you can see that the amount of the speakers are broken up here. Speaker one, that will probably be, the photographer or the person behind the camera. And we're rolling, and then thank you very much, and Warren. And sometimes what usually happens is that some of the words may not be exactly, Adobe Premiere tends to interpret the words not too accurately, but gets it close enough so that we can have an idea of like, oh, okay, this will probably sound good, right? And it usually tells you when the speakers are. And what's really cool about this is that you can play this back. Really cool, right? So now, how do we get this to be a script, right? How do we, piece this whole thing together? Well, let's go over to this little 3-dot panel right here in our project panel. And we're going to go to export, and we want to export it as a text file. Now what this will do, it'll export as a text file, and I'll save this in one of my folders here. we're not going to necessarily work on this particular one, but I'm just going through to show you exactly the process of this. And I'll just put script 2, right? You can call it script for whatever assignment that you're working on, and I'll put it into a script folder. Boom, and there we go. So now we're going to go over to our script folder, and that'll be item A. And we go into script, and it was script 2. We double click it, and it comes up as a raw text file here. And what I like to do, instead of working in the default Mac text file program here or application, I would go over to Microsoft Word. If I can find it, I'll go to Microsoft Word. I'll create a new file. I'll select all in the text script. I'll copy and then paste into here. Now, this is a little bit more easier to work with, right? So I also want to create another Microsoft Word text file that I can pull from. So if I see anything interesting here, I'll just hit Command N on the Mac or Control N on the PC, and I'll pull anything that I think that looks good onto here. So now that we have this process here, right, I'm going to go back to Adobe Premiere, and I already have this interview transcribed. Okay. And from here, from Microsoft Word, let's go into, the actual script itself. So what I did here, I pulled what was good in, let's not save that because we're not working on it. So I pulled what was good from the interview that was here. Okay. And I'll start off with, okay, Joshua Herman, let's spell his name right. Shipwright, clip 6911, starting at 22 minutes 49. And we'll have the intro as a Nat sound pop with Josh hammering. All right. So I pulled all of that from the actual script itself, from the transcript, and put it here and just laid it out on these pages. All right. It's always a good idea to name your script, title it, whatever the date. If you're working on a project, it would be item A script. And then, of course, what I like to do is highlight everything so that I know what I'm working on and where I'm at working on it. So now that I've pulled this, right, now I picked out this part of the clip, which would be a Nat sound. So I'm going to go here to clip, which would be a reroll, 6911. Which would be somewhere right here, right? And that starts at 2249. Somewhere right in this neighborhood, right? I'm going to make an endpoint right here. Let's see here. Might be a little bit earlier. Let's take another look at that. Let's see. 2249. Yeah, it's a little early. All right. So let's all right. So now that we have that part here, right? We've already made that selection. Let's put that onto our timeline. Okay. Okay, and let's shave that off a little bit. Okay, and we're gonna move on to this next part here. Joshua Herman shipwright, clip 6939. All right, so we want to go in on clip 6939 at 9 minutes and 49 seconds. So we'll go to the interview, which of course that is the file name. So we'll go to 9 minutes and 49 seconds. And he says, it was mostly a transportation boat to begin with to get the oysters from here to Oyster Bay to market in the city.
Okay. 1925, Jack says. It was mostly a transportation boat to begin with to get the oysters from here in Oyster Bay to market in the city.
Okay, that's it. And we'll end it there. Now let's go back to see if we actually got that.
It was mostly a transportation boat to begin with to get the oysters.
All right, that's good enough for me. So then we're going to pop that there. All right, and let's get rid of all of this. We don't need that. So, okay, so we're just working with this audio. We're just letting Premiere know we just want to work with these tracks here. All right, so the next thing we're going to go over to in the next part of our script, it was just around the time when oystering was transitioning from sailboats to powerboats. All right, and that is at 9 minutes and 59 seconds. Okay, let's see here.
Market in the city. It was just around the time.
All right. It was. So we want to come right before.
Just around the time engines and how affordable they were.
All right, so we're going to stop there, how affordable they were. Make the odd point there, drop it on the timeline. Okay, and the next selection for our script here, as we, unfortunately, the original boat was too far off, and then we'll end at some of the structural standards, and that is at 6939 11:23. Okay. All right.
For some of the structural standards.
All right, we'll stop right there, and we make our out point there, drop it onto the timeline. Next, it's a wooden boat, so as it gets older, it deteriorates faster. And then we'll butt the SOT also here, and we'll say, all right, so we'll start at 69:39 at 13:13. All right, 13 minutes, 13 seconds.
Used to be hundreds of these types of vessels, and they don't exist anymore because they're too expensive to maintain.
Now let's double check that. It's a wooden boat, so as it gets older, it deteriorates faster. At 13:13. Now let's double check that. Let's just make sure that's accurate here.
Because they're too expensive to maintain.
Let's take a look here. Let's scroll. Let's scrub back.
Historic landmarks. It's a wooden boat, so as it gets
there, we go. So it's a little further ahead. So sometimes, usually also with Adobe Premiere, this is why it's important to always, make sure you play back wherever the time code is, because I copied the time code from here, from the actual transcript itself. Okay. And we'll take a look at the transcript that I copied into Microsoft Word. So we'll go to 13, and that's pretty much where I got it. This is like kind of like the approximate point here, right? And usually it's somewhere in this neighborhood, but it's always a good idea to kind of scrub through the clip or in that area of this time code range, so that you can find it. So as you can see with me, I had to scrub a little further ahead.
A a lot of used to be hundreds of these types of vessels, and they don't exist anymore because they're too expensive to maintain. It's a wooden boat, so as it gets older, it gets, deteriorates faster.
All right, so it deteriorates faster. Let's go back to our script. It deteriorates faster. They become increasingly more expensive to maintain.
They become increasingly more expensive to maintain the worse
they get.
Neil.
Okay.
The wooden boat, so as it.
All right, let's back that up a little bit.
It's a wooden boat, so as it gets older, it gets,
I like the way that sounds. Let's drop that onto the timeline. We have a butted SOT, which would mean sound on tape, which is pretty much what the interview is. So we'll go to scrub over to 13 minutes, 31 seconds.
For a living, so.
All right.
For living, so I help people save their own wooden boats.
I help people save their own wooden boats. So that's really good. And we'll go over to 6939. I don't know why I have 6930. I mean, you can see that it's hard work. Let's go to 1338. So just a couple of seconds ahead. So let's just play this ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you can see that it's hard work. It's in many ways, it's like heavy construction mixed with sculpture, mixed with problem solving. We rarely get to build new boats.
All right, so we'll cut that there, drop that onto the timeline. And now we're going to go and butt the SOT at 14 minutes and 30 seconds. So we'll scrub all the way over here. We'll stop a little bit before then, give us some room.
Most of the boats are well over 100 years old. And it just kind of, it's fun, it's hard work.
All right, so we want to stop there. It's fun, it's hard work. That's where we want to start.
It's fun, it's hard work. It's fun, it's hard work. It's really creative.
All right.
It's incredibly creative.
It's incredibly creative, and that's where we want to stop. Okay. Okay, so now we want to create the out point, drop that onto the timeline as well. Okay, so now we have that SOT butted there. And now we're going to come to the end of our script here. And here we have Joshua Herman shipwreck and 15 minutes, 36 seconds. This boat is going to travel hopefully all around Long Island. And then it ends with all sorts of variety of things to get people exposed to history, to the water, to Oyster Bay, to Long Island Sound. All right, so as we're going to play this, 15 minutes, 36 seconds.
Fit for here. This boat's going to travel, hopefully, all around Long Island, so it can sort of extend their mission.
All right, we're going to start at this boat. Let's back that up a little bit.
This boat's going to.
So as you can see, it says at 15 minutes, 36 seconds. Let's move it back just a little bit more.
Here, this boat's going to travel, hopefully, all around Long Island, so it can sort of extend their mission a little bit farther. It'll also, they'll also take private charters. They'll do dinner cruises, sunset cruises, public sails, whatever it takes. All sorts of varieties of different things.
I'm just reading through the script as he's talking.
To history, to the water, to Oyster Bay, to Long Island Sound.
All right, and that's where we want to end it. All right, so that is scripting in a nutshell. Okay, that's just to get you started, to create an actual timeline with your interviews, so that way it's a lot easier for you to piece it all together and then drop B-roll on top of it. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up, and I'll talk to you all on the next one.